Yeah, hi, I'm Greg McBrayer. I'm a professor of political science here at Ashland University in the Ashbrook Center. Sort of a loaded question. It's hard for me to answer. I was born in Texas, but I only lived there for about a year, and then I spent 4 or 5 years in South Carolina, and then Berlin, Germany, and then Colorado. So most of my childhood was in Berlin, Germany, and Colorado Springs, Colorado. But I call Georgia home. That's where my family's from. It's where we always went to visit grandparents, aunts, and uncles. My folks live there now. My sister lives there. It's where some of my closest friends. So Georgia is the short answer.
Okay.
My dad was in the Air Force. That explains why we moved around so much. This semester I'm teaching a class on early modern political thought. We are studying Machiavelli, Francis Bacon, Rene Descartes, Thomas Hobbes, and John Locke. And the other class I'm doing is sort of one of my favorite classes. I'm doing a seminar on Xenophon, the Greek philosopher and student of Socrates. We're currently reading the Anabasis, which is an account of his own military adventures in the Persian Empire. He becomes the general of an army of 10,000 mercenaries. So it's sort of a neat book because it shows that the Socratic is not simply a sort of pencil-necked weenie, but he's sort of out there actually doing politics. So that's kind of a fun text. So those are the two I'm teaching. I have two Chihuahuas, actually. My wife had a Chihuahua when we were dating, and it's now become mine. And we've since adopted a second one, although I'm pretty sure the second one is part Chihuahua, part Corgi. Their names are Stubby, that's the boy dog, and Shorty. Stubby is 13 years old, and Shorty is 8 or 9 years old. And they bring an immense amount of joy to my life, and I never would have ever thought that I would be a Chihuahua man. But I don't know if you can tell, but I'm even wearing a Chihuahua tie today. It's shameful, but yeah.
Okay.
I love my dogs, yeah. I earned my PhD from the University of Maryland in College Park, which is just out. It's in D.C. It's actually in the Beltway. It's just outside of Metro D.C. With a colleague, Renee Paddock's actually got his there as well. I studied with Charles Butterworth. That was my main mentor at University of Maryland. Cake. That was quick. All right, yeah. Cake's easy. Pizza and barbecue are too good. My least favorite book? That's a hard question, Josh. I remember really not liking Catcher in the Rye, but I read it when I was maybe 25 or 26, 27, something like that. And I think that that's a book that one must be a teenager to enjoy. I think I was just too old for it. I just sort of thought, it's just a kid complaining about it. He's got it made. He's a rich New England prep school kid. Like, your life's made, kid. The other one, this might offend some folks, but I never could make it through any Ayn Rand book I tried to read. So, with apologies to the Randians out there, because they're a sort of strident bunch. But yeah, I couldn't make it through Rand. I should have said Mein Kampf, by the way. That's my least favorite book. What's wrong with me? Right? That terrible book by Hitler is my least favorite book. Sorry, I go back and we'll edit that out. Sorry. Next question, Josh.
That's good.
Vanilla. That's, I've been lucky enough to be at a place at Ashbrook where they let me kind of occasionally teach whatever I want to teach. Not all the time, obviously, but so this course on Xenophon is one of my favorites. I did a class a couple years ago on rhetoric that I really enjoyed, and I think that's in the curriculum process right now to be established as an actual class. Honestly, any class where I get to do a deep dive into some of my favorite authors is a class that I want to teach. So at some point, I've devoted a class to Aristotle. I want to develop, there are classes on Plato I want to devote myself to. So really anything that, my favorite, this is what's great about the Ashbrook Scholar Program is that there are so many students you can always find a dozen or so students who are interested in, if it's a good text, they're gonna want to take it. So I will say the one class I haven't gotten to teach here yet that I want to teach, I did it for a reading group a few years ago, but I'd like to do it for class. I sort of tongue-in-cheek from a friend of mine call it the philosophy of whales, not the country, the animal. And I want to do in that class Job, Jonah, Hobbes's Leviathan, and my favorite novel, Moby Dick. Because I actually do think there's some serious things going on across those works, and I think they are in some dialogue with one another. So that'd be fun to do. But it also look good on a transcript, right? Philosophy of whales. Students would be like, or employers would be like, what is this? So, yeah. I'd want to be my wife's dog because she pampers the heck out of the dogs. Dogs is a good choice. Aristotle, I think, would say that it's best for us to be, for all animals, it's best to be under human rule because the guide of reason. But I've always been somewhat attached to deer. They seem beautiful and majestic and free. Depends on the time of day. In the morning, I almost always like to have a little bit of milk with my coffee. So in the morning, my preferred coffee is a latte. In the afternoon, it's espresso. But my usual drink is just straight black coffee. But that's because I'm not always doing what I prefer.
Right.
It takes a little time and effort to make a latte.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. A Socratic, so either Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, or Xenophon.
We got to choose one of them.
All right,
So
I'll come back to that.
Okay.
And then Christ, so an American, a religious, and a philosopher is what I would do. So let's say Lincoln, Christ, and Socrates. All right. Ooh, between 1 and 16? 7. Lucky number 7.
If you were a type of cheese, which one would you be and why?
Is that really random? Because I really do love cheese. Blue, because it's foreign and stinky and pungent, and great with red wine. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Well, I hope that this is for alumni. So I hope that first off, just come and support the Ashbrook Center. Come to our events. Come just stop in and drop in and say hey to your old professors. And if we have a speaker in town, come and see us. But a couple of things I'd plug is this guy that works with me. His name is Josh Distel. He's started doing educational outreach for lawyers. So if you're an alumnus or an alumni, and you're a lawyer, and you like what you got on the Ashbrook Scholar Program, we're now starting to branch out into legal education. So that's number one. Number two, we've started a podcast called The American Idea, which you can find on Spotify and iTunes or anywhere you get your podcasts. And Jeff Sicking is the host. Sometimes John Moser steps in as the co-host. But so those are two of the projects that I've helped a little out with that I'm really proud of, that I think are great sort of programs to reach alumni. So. Well, if I'm allowed to plug non-Ashbrook stuff. So in addition to the American Idea podcast, which I sort of am the executive producer of, which means I don't do a lot of the work anymore, actually, I co-host a podcast called The New Thinkery with two of my good friends, Alex Priu and David Barr. And it's a sort of comic attempt to lay out philosophy for a general audience, although sometimes it gets a little deep. It's a lot of fun. We've been going 2 years strong, and we're seeing some pretty good growth. So you can find The New Thinkery anywhere. You can go to newthinkery.com. You can follow us on Twitter at The New Thinkery. And anywhere you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, all that stuff. Yeah.